The upcoming biopic, shouted out loud, promises to do what few music films have dared: go behind the makeup, past the fire, and into the heart of one of rock's most outrageous success stories. A band that turned rejection into revolution and stagecraft into superstardom. And yes, it comes with a casting decision that's already stirring controversy. Set against the gritty backdrop of 1970s New York, the film rewinds to a time before the sold-out arenas on platinum records, when Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, and Peter Criss were just four ambitious outsiders trying to get noticed in a city overflowing with sound-alike bands and fading trends. Together they created Kiss, a band that wasn't just about music, but about myth.
Well, your relationship with Gene Simmons, who is not your brother, but he's frequently cast as a near brother. The two of you have been close for well over half a century.
Yeah.
So when and how did that happen? Tell me the story.
I was playing with a guitar player in Washington Heights, which is interestingly the neighborhood that I first grew up in. 211th Street and Broadway was where I was originally from. I found a guitar player who I was playing with, and one day I went over to his house, his apartment, and there was another guy there, and he said, "This is Gene, he writes songs, and this is Stan." At that time I was Stanley. I still am, only now it's my last name. But I said, "Yeah, I write songs," and Gene said, "Oh, play me one." And I sat down and played him a song, which incidentally wound up on our first album, and he played me one song, which didn't. So I famously didn't take to him immediately. And when Steve, this other guitar player, said, "Why don't we have a band together?" I said, "Well, you can play with him, or you can play with me, but you're not going to play with us." Well, here we are 50 some odd years later, and I'm very fortunate to have been on that path with him.
With their alter egos, the Star Child, the Demon, the Spaceman, and the Catman, they turned every show into a rock opera of sound, fire, and spectacle. The movie will dive deep into the moments that shaped their legacy, the relentless rehearsals, the bold decision to go full theatrical with face paint and flamboyant personas, and their struggle to gain legitimacy in an industry that scoffed at their over-the-top image. Shouted Out Loud will give fans a front row seat to the grind behind the glamour. It will show how the band honed their live shows to explosive perfection, using lights, smoke, and sound captivate audiences, and how that same drive led to exhaustion, ego clashes, and deep internal rifts. As fame grew, so did the pressure, but so did the legend. Kiss's career was filled with game-changing highlights. Their 1975 live album, Alive, captured the raw electricity of their performances and turned the tide of their struggling career. The following year, Destroyer delivered classic tracks like Detroit Rock City and Beth, balancing high-octane rock with heartfelt balladry. They revolutionized band merchandising, became the subject of Marvel comic books, and turned themselves into cultural icons.
Speaking of which, Kiss is going to have its own comic book soon, featuring the four strangely attired and hairy fellows to be printed by Arcata Graphics. Printed in, if you believe everything you're told, in real Kiss blood. To that end, Kiss flew into Buffalo today, yes, with a plane, a Brinks truck bringing a little white box, in which were, you guessed it, 4 vials of real Kiss blood, which were summarily dumped into some printing ink for the old comic book. Isn't that wonderful? The whole thing was a classic public relations stunt, one which may or may not have been in bad taste, depending on yours, one which may or may not sell comic books. It would be nice to think that people won't be sucked in by this type of thing.
The group was eventually inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014 after years of fan pressure.
Because the issue is that the Hall of Fame is inducting the 4 original band members,
Right.
and you have been very vocal in being livid at the Rock Hall. And I think it was an hour or so ago you said that this will be that Kiss tonight will be a big nightmare for the Rock Hall. Why?
Well,
What's your beef?
I think we're the bitter pill that they had to swallow. At some point, their credibility is so in question because it's 14 years since we've been eligible. If I've done anything, I hope that I've shown people the little man behind the levers in The Wizard of Oz, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not the hall of the people. It's a small group of guys who decide who they want and who they don't, and then they decide what the rules are for you that don't apply to anybody else. So they wanted the original 4 guys to make the pill a little smaller. But we've had many members who have played on multi-platinum albums and played to millions of people. And it wasn't even a subject for discussion. They told me that it was a non-starter. That's arrogance that I don't have to put up with.
But the movie isn't just going to recount milestone moments. It aims to humanize the story, to look at the friendships, the frustrations, the insecurities, and the fight to remain relevant. It wants to show the cost of being larger than life, the brotherhood and betrayal, the fire behind the fire. And then there's the twist that has everyone talking, the casting of Paul Stanley. For a figure as iconic and theatrical as Kiss's frontman, many assumed the role would go to a veteran rocker or a seasoned theater actor. Instead, it went to someone far removed from the world of face paint and fireballs. Nick Jonas. Known for his time with the Jonas Brothers and his solo pop career, Jonas may seem like an unlikely fit to play the leather-clad, star-eyed star child, but look deeper, and the choice starts to make sense. Jonas has grown from a teenage pop idol into a legitimate solo artist and actor with serious stage presence. He spent years performing in front of massive audiences and has the vocal chops to handle Stanley's iconic parts. Even more, Jonas is reportedly doing all of his own singing for the film. The biggest endorsement of all, Paul Stanley himself approved the casting. Along with Gene Simmons, Stanley is actively involved in the production, giving the project both authenticity and credibility. Shout It Out Loud has the potential to be one of the most visually electrifying, emotionally honest, and musically exciting biopics yet. It's not just a look back, it's a reintroduction, a reminder of what it means to dream loud and live louder. Ultimately, this isn't just a story about 4 guys in makeup. It's about transformation. It's about vision. It's about daring to create something the world has never seen before, and the personal costs that come with chasing the extraordinary. And if Nick Jonas pulls it off, don't be surprised if a new generation picks up the eyeliner, turns up the volume, and starts shouting it out loud all over again.